I never planned on running into her that often. The corner coffee shop wasn't mine, it was hers. At least, it felt that way. She was always there before I showed up, sitting by the window with a paperback half folded in her hand, a thermos beside her she never drank from. I told myself it was coincidence, that I wasn't adjusting my own mornings just to catch a glimpse of her across the cafe. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't notice the way she always tucked her hair behind her ear when she spotted me, like she had to prepare herself for conversation. She was my friend's mom, mid-40s, divorced. Everyone else seemed to pass by her without a second thought. But something in the way she carried herself, steady, but not unbreakable, kept pulling my attention back, like the eye keeps returning to a line in a book it doesn't fully understand. That morning, she was stirring sugar into her coffee. Slowly, too slowly. I thought maybe she was waiting for me to say something. So I did. Morning. Her eyes lifted. Brown, calm, but a little sharp, as if she could already see what I wasn't admitting to myself. "You're looking again," she said. The words didn't come out unkind. More like she was stating the way my mouth went dry, but I didn't look away. "I can't seem to stop." She laughed, soft and quiet. The kind of laugh people use when they don't want to encourage you, but also don't want to embarrass you. Then she went back to stirring her coffee, though the sugar must have already dissolved. I sat down a few tables away, pretending I was fine, pretending I had somewhere else to look. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A notification. I didn't check it. Instead, I folded the paper sleeve from my cup over and over until it was small and sharp-edged in my hand. I wanted to text someone. Anyone. But every draft I started felt pointless. Nothing to say, just sitting here. Wish you were too. Then I'd delete it, slip the phone face down, and stare at the half-finished crossword abandoned on the counter. She coughed once, a small sound, and I looked up too quickly. She noticed. Of course she did. "Your coffee's getting cold," she said without glancing my way. I nodded, though she couldn't see me, and took a sip. It was already lukewarm. We didn't talk again that morning. She packed her book into her bag, the spine worn from years of rereads, and walked past my table without stopping. But as she passed, she set down a napkin. No note, just a napkin. I picked it up, confused, until I realized it wasn't random. Folded in the corner was the number from the crossword puzzle clue she'd been stuck on. 17 down. My hands tightened around it, unsure what I was supposed to do with something so small. By the time I looked up, she was already outside, slipping her sunglasses on though the sun was still low. She didn't wave. She didn't smile. She just crossed the street, like nothing had happened. But the napkin stayed warm in my hand. I turned it over, as if maybe she'd written something else. Nothing. Just the number. 17. That night, when I got home, I opened my phone to text my friend. I stopped before typing. My thumb hovered, hesitated. Then, without thinking, I typed her number instead. Not a message. Just saved it. Quietly. Secretly. And as I set my phone face down again, I knew tomorrow morning I'd find myself in that coffee shop at the same time. Even if I had no idea what to say next, the napkin was still folded in my jacket pocket when I saw her again. 2 days later. Same cafe, same seat by the window. Only this time, her thermos wasn't on the table. Just her coffee cup, cooling faster than she drank it. I hesitated in the doorway, like a kid deciding whether to step into the deep end. She looked up. A flicker of recognition passed across her face, subtle, almost hidden, but it was enough to undo me. "Morning," I said, forcing the word through a throat that felt too tight. "You're late today," she replied. I smiled without meaning to. She remembered. She noticed. I sat across from her, uninvited but not asked to move. She closed her book gently, marking the page with a bus ticket. "Do you actually read these, or just carry them around for effect?" I shook my head. "I try, but I get stuck. Can't focus long enough." "That's not a failure," she said. "It just means your head is full." Her tone was matter of fact, but something in the way she said it pressed against me, like she knew exactly how restless my nights had been. How often I stared at the ceiling, phone in hand, typing and erasing things I could never send. She leaned back, crossing her arms. You know, you remind me of someone. Who? My son, when he was your age. He had this way of waiting for people to tell him what he was supposed to want. I froze. My friend. Her son. The unspoken wall rose between us, sharp and tall. I tried to laugh it off. Guess that makes me predictable. Her gaze softened, though, and she looked away before answering. No, just young. The word hung there, more complicated than it should have been. The silence stretched. I noticed her hands, small, steady, a thin silver ring she kept twisting when she thought no one was looking. I wanted to ask her 100 things. Did she ever regret leaving? Did she ever wish someone had stayed? Did she ever think about me, even for a second, when I wasn't around? Instead, I said, do you want me to grab you another tea? Yours looks cold. She hesitated, then slid the cup across the table. If you don't mind. I carried it to the counter, feeling her eyes on me the whole time. By the time I returned, steam curled from the rim again. She wrapped both hands around it, like she needed the warmth more than the drink itself. We sat there in silence, not reading, not checking phones, just existing in the same space as though it meant something more than either of us could admit. When she finally stood to leave, she touched my sleeve lightly. Barely anything, the kind of gesture you'd forget if you weren't paying attention. But I was. And later, walking home with my hands shoved deep in my pockets, I kept replaying that moment. That smallest, almost accidental brush. I don't know why that moment stayed with me. Maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me. The next time wasn't planned. Not really. I'd just finished a late shift, and the cafe lights were still on when I passed by. Inside, she was at the counter, coat draped over her arm, waiting for a tea to go. I almost kept walking. Almost. But the door gave way under my hand before I could talk myself out of it. She turned. That faint flicker again. Something between surprise and relief. Maybe I imagined it. You're out late, she said. So are you. She smiled without showing teeth. A tired smile. The kind that said she'd had a long day but wasn't ready to go home yet. We walked out together, cups warm in our hands, steam rising into the cool air. Side by side on the sidewalk, not too close, not too far. Do you ever notice, she said, eyes on the pavement, how empty the streets feel at night? Like they belong to you alone. Sometimes I like it, I admitted. Feels safer. Or lonelier. I don't know. She nodded once, slow. Both. We reached the corner where the street split. Her way, my way. Neither of us moved. Then, out of nowhere, headlights swept across us. A car slowed. I recognized the driver instantly, my friend, her son. He leaned across the steering wheel, surprise flickering across his face before he lifted a hand in a casual wave. Hey man, I said quickly, lifting my cup in return. My voice was too high, too fast. He grinned, oblivious, and drove on. The silence afterward pressed heavy between us. She looked straight ahead, jaw tight, like she was holding her breath. I shoved my free hand into my pocket, shifting on my feet. I started. Yeah, she said at the same time. But neither of us moved. I glanced at her hand around the paper cup, her thumb rubbing the rim in small circles. Something in me wanted to reach out, to still it, to let her know she wasn't the only one restless. Instead, I said, he didn't think anything of it. Her eyes found mine then, sharp and searching. Doesn't matter what he thinks. Her voice broke slightly on the last word, just enough for me to hear what she was trying not to say. We stood there, caught in a space that felt thinner than air, closer than breath. I thought of leaning down, of closing the distance, of what her mouth might taste like, tea, maybe, and regret. But she turned first, looked away, took a step back. You should get some rest, she said, softer now. I swallowed hard, nodded. You too. She lingered 1 second longer, like she wanted to add something, then walked toward her street. I stayed there on the corner, the echo of her footsteps fading. Close. Too close. And still not close enough. It happened on a bench. Not planned. Not dramatic. Just the kind of evening when the air feels too heavy to go straight home. She was already sitting there when I walked past, a paper bag of groceries at her feet. The streetlight above us buzzed, flickering faintly. "You waiting for someone?" I asked. Her head tilted, almost amused. "Maybe. Or maybe I just didn't want to carry this all the way yet." I sat down, the wood cool under my palms. Close enough to feel her presence, not close enough to touch. For a while, we didn't talk. The silence stretched, filled only by the hum of distant traffic. She traced circles on the bag with her finger. I folded and unfolded the cuff of my sleeve. "Finally," she said, "you're too young to sit around like this, brooding on park benches." I smiled faintly. "And you're not." Her laugh was short, almost sharp. Then it faded. "I've earned the right to brood." I wanted to ask what she meant, but something in her expression stopped me. The quiet ache behind her eyes, the way her mouth pressed flat. Like a door she only opened by mistake. "I think about it," I said, voice low, surprising even myself. "The age thing. The him thing. All of it." Her body stilled. She didn't look at me, not right away. Then, and I swallowed. My throat was dry, and I can't stop anyway. The words fell between us, raw and too real. For a second, I thought she might stand and leave. But she didn't. She turned toward me, finally, eyes catching mine with a steadiness that hurt to hold. "You don't know what you're doing," she said, almost whispering. "You think you do, but you don't." I should have agreed. Should have laughed it off. But I just shook my head. I know what it feels like. To want to stay? Even when I shouldn't. Her hand tightened on the bag, the paper crinkling under her grip. The sound was louder than it should have been. For a heartbeat, I thought she might cry. Instead, she exhaled slowly, controlled, like she was holding back a flood. "You don't understand the cost," she murmured. "Then tell me." Her lips parted, but no words came. Just that silence again, stretched taut. I leaned forward, not touching, not daring, but close enough that I could feel her warmth. The air between us thinned. A single movement, just one, and it would all break open. Her eyes flicked down to my mouth, then back up. The briefest betrayal. I froze, caught between the want and the warning. She looked away first, standing suddenly, groceries in hand. Her voice was steadier than her steps. "You should go home," she said. I stayed on the bench, watching her walk into the night, her shadow bending and breaking under the streetlights. And the question she didn't ask hung in the air, heavier than anything she could have said. What happens if we don't stop? She didn't come to the cafe the next morning, or the morning after. At first, I told myself it was coincidence. Schedules change. People get busy. But by the third day, the empty chair by the window felt louder than any crowd. I tried not to care. Tried to drink my coffee, scroll my phone, act like her absence wasn't pressing against my chest. But it was. By the fourth day, I stopped going too. It was easier than sitting there alone, watching the steam rise from a cup across from no one. When I finally saw her again, it wasn't where I expected. Grocery store, late evening. She had her hair pulled back, no makeup, basket hooked over one arm. She looked ordinary, more human than she ever had in the cafe light. I almost called out. But then I saw him, my friend, walking beside her. Taller than me, joking about something on his phone. Her laugh was softer with him, different, the kind of laugh that didn't invite attention. I froze in the aisle, holding nothing but a carton of milk, and ducked behind a display like a coward. Later that night, the guilt of it burned. I told myself I should have said hello. Should have waved, acted normal. Instead, I lay on my bed with the lights off, scrolling through unsent drafts on my phone. One read, "Did I do something wrong?" Another, "You disappeared." The last, "I missed the bench." None of them sent. The next time we crossed paths was a week later. Back at the cafe. She was already leaving when I walked in, coat buttoned tight, a paperback tucked under her arm. "Hey," I said, too fast, like I'd been waiting all week for that one word. She paused, almost flinched, then forced a smile. "Hey." No seat, no invitation, just distance. "Been busy?" I asked. She nodded. Something like that. The silence swallowed us. People brushed past, doors opened and closed, but all I heard was what she wasn't saying. Finally, I blurted, Did I cross a line? Her eyes flicked to mine, sharp for half a second, then softened. It's not you. I wanted to believe her. But she didn't explain. She just adjusted the strap on her bag and added, I can't. I just can't. And then she was gone, doors swinging shut behind her, leaving me staring at my untouched coffee. That night, I drafted another message. Just 5 words. Tell me if it's over. I didn't send it. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused, like life forgot to finish the sentence. The chair across from me stayed empty, and I didn't know if I should keep waiting for her to fill it again or learn to drink my coffee alone. It happened on her doorstep. Not planned, not dramatic. I was walking past her building late one evening when I saw her struggling with grocery bags, keys clutched between her fingers. Here, I said before I could think, jogging up the steps. She turned, startled, then exhaled when she saw me. You scared me. I reached for the heavier bag. She didn't fight me on it. Together, we climbed the narrow stairwell, our footsteps echoing in the tight space. When we reached her door, she set her things down with a small sigh. You didn't have to help, she said. I wanted to. She looked at me then, really looked, like she was weighing something. Her shoulders softened, just slightly. Come in for a minute. I owe you tea, at least. The apartment was dim, quiet. A lamp by the couch cast a warm circle of light. She moved around the kitchen like she'd done it 1,000 times, filling the kettle, pulling down 2 mugs. I sat at the table, hands clasped too tightly, trying to act like I belonged there. You've been avoiding me, I said finally. The words came out rougher than I meant. She froze, back to me, fingers resting on the handle of the kettle. For a long moment, I thought she wouldn't answer. Then, without turning, she said, I didn't know how to keep this from becoming something it shouldn't. The whistle of the kettle filled the silence. I swallowed. And what if it already is? She turned then, eyes meeting mine. For once, she didn't look away. You're too young. He's your friend. She cut herself off, shaking her head. It's messy. I don't care about messy. Her breath caught. Just a small sound, but I heard it. She carried the mugs to the table, setting one in front of me, then sat down across from me. The steam curled between us. I can't give you what you think you want, she said softly. Not without it costing us both more than it's worth. I stared into my tea, searching for words that didn't sound foolish. I'm not asking for forever. Just don't pretend this doesn't exist. Her hand twitched, almost reaching across the table before retreating. The air thickened with everything unsaid. Finally, she whispered, Do you know how long it's been since someone looked at me the way you do? I didn't answer. Couldn't. The truth was too sharp in my throat. We sat there, the kettle cooling, the tea untouched. She leaned back, closing her eyes for a moment, as if surrendering to the weight of it all. When she opened them again, she didn't smile, but her hand brushed against mine on the table. Just a touch. Barely anything. But it stayed there. Okay, she said. That was all. And it was enough to feel like everything had changed. It didn't happen overnight. Nothing ever does. There were mornings when she wasn't at the cafe, and I'd sit there anyway, the empty chair reminding me of how much space absence can take up. There were evenings when I thought about knocking on her door, then walked past instead, keys heavy in my pocket. But slowly, almost without noticing, we found a rhythm. It started again on the bench. Weeks later, same spot, same flickering streetlight. I sat down first this time, waiting. She showed up carrying a thermos and 2 mugs. No words, just poured tea and slid one toward me. Still brooding? She asked. Still earning it. I shot back. Her smile lingered longer that time. After that, it was little things. She'd leave her crossword on the cafe counter, already half done, knowing I'd fill in the blanks she left behind. I'd bring her black coffee at 8:47 a.m., the time she always arrived, without her ever needing to ask. It wasn't a romance, not the way people expect. There were no declarations, No dramatic confessions. Just steady company. Shared silences. A hand brushing mine as she set down her mug. One night, months later, she admitted something over tea at her kitchen table. I thought I'd forgotten what it was like. To be seen. Not as a mother. Not as someone past their time. Just me. I didn't know how to answer. So I didn't. I just listened, the way she always had for me. And in that listening, something settled. Not explosive. Not consuming. Just warm. She never called it love. Neither did I. But I noticed how her voice softened when she said my name. How my day felt incomplete if I didn't hear her laugh, at least once. We didn't need to name it. It was ours, quiet and ordinary, stitched into coffee cups and late-night walks, into grocery bags carried up stairwells and crossword puzzles left undone. The world outside might not understand it, but inside those moments, it made sense. That evening on the bench, the same one where I almost said too much, she leaned her head lightly against my shoulder. Nothing more, just that small surrender. We sat there until the streetlight flickered off, the city waking around us. Neither of us moved, and for the first time, I didn't feel paused. I felt finished, like the sentence had finally found its ending. What kind of quiet, real love stories do you want to hear next? Share them below. I'll be waiting at the bench.